Now, we discussed this yesterday, but I think it's worth discussing as well 24 hours later, considering Stevie and Frank are here. This was after Amorim's training, Casemiro top training. Meanwhile, Rashford as well, very much enjoying top session for him. Frank Leboeuf is with us. Frank, we talked yesterday a lot about being teacher's pet and kind of sucking up and that sort of stuff. But is this also a dig at Ten Hag as well?
Yeah, it could be. It could be, because I'm pretty sure Ten Hag is listening or reading some comments, and I'm pretty sure that it's kind of a payback from the players, and it's I don't know if it's fair. We're not in the dressing room, but it's how it works. You know, people who didn't like the former coach can be a little bit harsh on him. And at the same time, as you said, you know, you want to please the new one. So it's kind of a game. It doesn't mean anything. I think for me, it doesn't mean anything. I think Amorim knows exactly what the players can do. And Ten Hag was expecting those kind of comments. So it's not very interesting in a way, you know. We want to see the result. We want to see how they play. We want to see if Casemiro is going to be better, Rashford is going to be more consistent, and Amorim can play a 3 at the back without any problems. So that's what I want to see on the side of the game.
Frank, I'm very aware, you know, different generations, you know, different experiences, different ways of expressing yourself. But I'm just intrigued, if you put that out when you were playing for Chelsea, how would the dressing room react?
I don't know. I think some players will say, Frank, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? You don't need to do that. You know, but I guess it's only fair. I mean, you know, I was in the middle of kind of a strange situation where I was a big friend with Ruud Gullit, but Gianluca Vialli was my best friend as well. And 5 days or some days before Ruud was sacked and Gianluca took over, they were both on my birthday, and I had no clue about that. That was a strange situation. So I was very sad for Ruud, and I was very happy for Gianluca. But as a player, I had to shut up and just do my job, because that was none of my business. My business was to perform. So I said to Ruud that I was sad, but I didn't go public, and I said to Gianluca that I was happy for him and good luck. That's the only thing I had to do. But, well, we didn't have social networks, so we couldn't you know, say what we had to say. But really, it's none of the players' business. The players have to play, and at some point they have to be responsible. Because it's not only Ten Hag responsible for what happened to Manchester United. The players are also responsible for that.
Stevie, how would have this gone down in the Liverpool dressing room of your day?
Well, it wouldn't have harmed, but I mean, I think we're kind of looking too much into this. I don't think anybody's sucking up to the teacher, and I don't think anybody's having a go at Ten Hag. Listen, at the end of the day, with the social media and players, they've got they've got hundreds of thousands of people looking at their feeds all the time. Right. So they've got to put something on it.
Well, they don't have to.
Well, of course they do.
No, they don't.
Well, if you put something up 1 week and then they wait 6 months, do you think they wouldn't have lost followers? They've got to keep the thing open.
Social media expert.
Look at this.
They've got to keep the thing going. So
they got to keep the thing going.
They got to keep it going, man.
I mean, you can see them sitting with the wife going, right, what am I going to put up today? I've got to put something up.
Really?
Aye, of course they do. You need content, Dan. My goodness. It's all about content.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
okay.
The social media consultant that you are.
Well, I'm available for anybody who wants it.
So we've talked about Amorim coming in, and we know that he likes 3-4-3.
Right.
They've got Ipswich this weekend.
Right.
He's not going to play 3-4-3 straight away, is he?
Oh, I've no idea. I mean, why wouldn't he?
Oh, you think he would?
Well,
no, just so give me a...
By everything I've heard about Amorim, that's his way of playing.
So just explain to me from a player's perspective how long it takes for someone to understand what he's trying to get across, or is it something that's actually quite simple?
Right. Here's the thing. When you're playing at Manchester United, and I know we've criticised some of the players, we don't think they're good enough for United, but the fact that, you know, they've come from Ajax and they've come from top clubs, you have a superb, generally, understanding of how the game plays, right? And so when he tells you about the way he wants to play, most of them will understand what he wants.
Okay.
But then it becomes, are they capable of doing it?
So just explain to me, in layman's terms, really basically, what he will say to them with regards to 3-4-3.
Well, so if he wants his back three, so generally when you play a back three, the one in the middle is the one organising everybody.
And that will be who?
Exactly, that's the problem.
Okay.
Man United don't have anybody that can do that.
Right.
So you
So
put
I'm
him in
trying
the
to
middle,
take-
and you put two athletes either side of him, and they're the ones that challenge, they're the one that cover the runners, and the other guy cleans everything up. And then the two wide guys have to be able to get up and down for 90 minutes.
Okay.
And put the miles in. So if you've got a guy who has a fantastic left peg and who's great in the final third, but can't get around, then that's a problem.
So
but you're going to have to do...
If you haven't got a leader, why are you pursuing this if you know you haven't got the tools to complete it?
Well, because generally what you'll do is you'll go to what you know.
Okay.
And then you'll try and put it into the players. As opposed to sitting watching what you have and go, you know what, this team's suited to 4-2-4 or 4-4-2 or whatever it is, but you're not quite happy with it yourself. It's not something you like. You will tend to go and try and put on the field what you can absolutely drum into somebody.
Right.
And make sure they know exactly where they should be, when they should be there, and what they should be doing.
Frank, do you have similar thoughts on this?
Yeah, I totally agree. You have to adapt, and I give you a simple example. I could have played with Chelsea at 3 at the back, and I had to go with the national team and play flat 4 at the back with Aimé Jacquet. And you have to know, because that's your job. You work on that. You've been working with some other teams, and you adapt to the situation. That's the leadership also that you have to get. Mostly during my career, been the guy in the middle of the defense, and I was dealing with the two centre backs. Let's say if we would play at 3, and I played with Marseille that, and the week after we're playing at 4 at the back, depending on the opposition. You have to know different tactics and setup, so it shouldn't be a problem. They have Martinez, they have De Ligt, they have, I don't know if Maguire is fit, even Evans. They are players who can play 3 at the back, and they can lead any others. So it shouldn't be a problem for Amorim to straight away start with a 3 at the back for me.
Now, Frank doesn't need me to tell him how good of a player he was. He reminds us of that quite often, right? But Frank is much better than whatever he just mentioned for Manchester United. So when Frank says, I was able to do it at Chelsea and then go to France and play different formations, well, that's one level of player. That's a different level of player than the ones that Manchester United has available right now. And the ones that he just mentioned, these are guys that, honestly, you look at them and think, which one of those guys is going to play in the middle of that back 3?
Right.
Which one is suited to do that? Who has the skill set to do that? And you kind of go crickets, because none of those guys really have proven to be able to have that role. I think of guys that in the past have played that role. A guy like, for example, Franco Baresi. That you never saw this guy sweating.
Yep.
That's how good he was able to read the game, and he will step into the midfield and play with the midfields and connect. Who in Manchester United has this? Who can do that for Manchester United? I don't think that is actually the case. And then you go, well, who are then the athletes that are going to play on the outside as this part of this back 3? Where are those guys? I don't think they exist currently at Manchester United. And so that's when I kind of go, all right, you may have a way of playing, and eventually this will be the way that you will set up your team. But you sort of have to ease your way into it while you actually evaluate what you have available. And because this has been an international break, there isn't a whole lot of time for you to evaluate and say, this guy goes here, that guy goes there, this guy goes there. I honestly think if you are a manager, the worst thing that you can do is shoehorn a formation and say, I don't care what guys I have, this is the way we're playing. I think you should actually have the adaptability to say, you know what? Right now, we're not quite ready for this. Let's get ourselves through the first couple of games, and let's continue to work on the things that would eventually allow us to play the way I want us to play.
The biggest problem with that is that it is 3. That's the biggest problem. You know, you look what Klopp did at Liverpool. It wasn't the Klopp that began at Liverpool to when he left. It was still the same sort of shape. It was just a different way of playing.
Right.
When you go to 3, that's a whole new ball game. Complete new ball game. That's the problem. And you have to have pace. If you don't have any pace defensively, you're in trouble.
Well, Matthias de Ligt, for example, he'll now be isolated, right? Because there is no help coming from an outside back, right? And so when that ball is played over the top on the turn, he doesn't have help on the outside. It's up to him. He is the one that is counted upon to be the athlete, to be able to keep up in 1v1 situations. Now, we have seen the Matthias de Ligt on the turn. It's beep, 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 and eventually he gets turned. Again, that is something that can be exposed just by the structure of the team. Yeah. If you set up with a back 3, that is something that can be exposed if anybody's paying attention and said, okay, where are the spaces? Over there and over there, these guys can't keep up. Well, that's where we're going to play the ball. And then, if you didn't believe that that wasn't enough to paint a clear picture about the disconnect between the fans and the players, let me just correct Rafinha. Rafinha, they were not booing the final score. They were booing you and your team. And while Rafinha may be one of the few players that you can say he tried to do a little something different, when it comes to the totality of Brazil, they were booing Brazil. And now the Brazilian fan is more likely to boo Brazil than to cheer for Brazil. That's where we are with Brazil.
Why was no one at the game, Gustavo?
Sorry?
Why was there no one? Why were there so many empty seats?
Okay, I know, because of the cost of the tickets. It's too expensive. And this is incredible because the Brazilian Confederation takes the match to Brazil, of course. They want the public there. But the cost of the tickets are so high that no one will go to the match, especially when Brazil is not playing well. So there is a huge disconnection between the fans and the team, and also between the Brazilian Football Federation and the country. To understand what happens in Brazil, to understand the economy in Brazil, the cost of the tickets were so high. This is the main reason, and also because of this disconnection between the team and the fans. I still about Rafinha. I think that he gets frustrated with everything that happened because he has been playing well. He is really playing well for Barcelona and Brazil. So when things around him doesn't happen the way that he wanted to, as the way that happens in Barcelona, for example, he really gets frustrated. So when he hears the boos, when the reporter after the match asks him about the bad performance of Brazil, I think that the frustrations became words.
Gustavo, it's interesting. Let me just take you through what the Brazilian coach had to say when he was asked about Neymar and the possibility of him returning to international action. And obviously, he's out with injury at the moment. The move to Saudi Arabia has been a complete and utter failure. This is what Dorival Jr. had to say about Neymar. I would like him to return to the team at a time when the team can support him. I hope that happens again in March or the following year. All we want is for him to be fit so that he can do his best. I have no doubt that with Neymar, the national team's performance, will be better than ever. This is clutching at straw. This is desperate, isn't it, Gustavo?
Yeah, no, yes. In Brazil, we have an expression that we say the hypothetical Neymar. Because no one knows how is Neymar nowadays. You can count on him. You just can't count on him. Of course that you can expect that he will come back, but you cannot expect that he will be the savior, that he will be your best player, because he doesn't play. Actually, he played, but he got another injury. But so he doesn't play regularly for more than a year. That's a lot for a player over 30 years old. So I think that we're talking about the hypothetical Neymar. When he returns, and if he returns, for example, to play in Brazil for Santos, many people are talking about it in Brazil. Let's see what happens. Brazil will play again in March. Will Neymar be playing again regularly till March? I think so, but no one knows nowadays.
32 he is, Ali. And you think all the struggles he's had, particularly since he made that move to Saudi Arabia, it's strange the manager is so committed.
Well, the age itself doesn't worry me as much as the injuries. And the fact that I think we can all agree, whatever we think of Neymar, we can all agree that he hasn't always been the most committed. And he hasn't always been the most about, to Stevie's point, a team sort of player. I think the fact that they're so desperate to find something different about this team, that you're not quite finding it in the players that are currently available for selection. And you kind of go, we got a guy. We got a guy. Neymar is the guy. And it's that desperation, and it's the fact that you feel the need to be drawn towards Neymar that paints a very clear picture as to where this team is. Yeah. At this point in Neymar's career, given the injury that he just had, you shouldn't be looking at him to walk through that door and resolve every issue that you have going forward in terms of the creativity for this team. You should have players available that you should be able to plug into those sort of holes and say, this is the next generation of Brazil. And you're struggling to do that. Neymar may be a good piece to have, may be useful for you in moments, but cannot be the answer to all your problems.
When was the last time Neymar actually lived up to the reputation that he got? I mean, he didn't. I mean, how far back do you want to go? Because in my mind, since he left Barcelona, he has been a shadow of the Neymar that we used to laud over and salivate over.
No, we've seen flashes, to be fair. At
There you
PSG,
go.
he took PSG to a Champions League final. Do you know what I mean? So there has been there.
Well,
but the fact that we're
again,
hanging our hats.
Again, Dan, I would argue. I would love to agree with you in saying that Neymar took them to a final. This is not like Maradona carrying Argentina. I think Neymar carrying PSG to a Champions League final is a bit of a stretch. And let's put his club team aside. When was the last time he played well for Brazil? In my cluttered brain, I don't remember the last time that Neymar actually produced in a Brazil shirt either. So the fact that Dorival's talking about when we get Neymar back...
Well, he hasn't produced in any shirt for a long time because he's been injured. This is
exactly.
The issue.
I mean, it's a classic case of sometimes not playing. People just seem to remember all the great things about you, other than what you actually produced before you had your injuries or whatever it may be.
A name that perhaps people that are not fans of Brazil or not familiar with Brazilian soccer that would not recognize, Estevão. Who is that? Was a 17-year-old kid that came off the bench last night to be in a moment in which you need something creative, in which you need somebody to make a difference. That's who Brazil are leaning on. And hoping that the 17-year-old kid comes in and becomes a difference maker. It paints a picture of desperation. It paints a picture of a team that is searching, of a manager that is searching, and he doesn't quite have the pieces. And beyond not having the pieces, because, again, that desperation is clear, those guys that you think are going to be the answer, i.e. Vini Jr., they're not performing. And so you add those things, and it doesn't add up well for Brazil and their performances in the future. And
one last thing on this side, Gustavo. It's been a good couple of games for Uruguay. Obviously, the win against Colombia. They've taken a draw, obviously, all day against Brazil. Considering everything that happened in Copa America, they've recovered well from that.
For sure. I think that the storm has passed. The problems between the manager and the team, everything that happened over the last weeks, I think that this storm has passed. An incredible win against Colombia, a draw against Brazil, having some good moments defending. For example, Dorival Jr. thought that Uruguay would have individual defense against them. And Dorival and the Brazilian team got surprised because Uruguay used zonal defense. So I think that the storm really passed for Uruguay, and now they're on their way to the World Cup, and they are improving. We see the improvement at Uruguay, the improvement that we don't see in Brazil.